Okay, I think I'm on. I think you can hear me on audio now. This is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection and stampartconnection.com. Thank you for joining me. I haven't been around because I have moved to New Mexico. So I have been very, very, very busy. So let me see if you can hear me now. Can you hear me now? I think you can hear me. Yep. Can you hear me? Because I'm getting audio over here. I'm getting audio. Can you hear me? Well, I've got sound going now. So okay, you got it. All right, bye. Hey, just had to check out some just some technical difficulty that I was having with one of my customers. So I am on now, and we are going to do a couple of cards using the Garden Birdhouses set. And this is the set right now. And I have done a couple of other cards using this set right here, where I have used samples of what was currently in the catalog. This one I just finished, and this one is really easy. It was just simply using some watercolor paper and using an aqua painter with some of the ink, and I just kind of swooshed it over there kind of fast, and then after I swished it over and everything was dry, using Misty Moonlight for the blue. Then I stamped using the stamps right over it, and it made that really nice effect right there. And then I used my background stamping with just simply some Daffodil Delight, and I just took all the little bird stamps here. There's 3 little bird stamps, and I took those little bird stamps and I just kind of put them on one block, and I made kind of a background. So there's that card. This card was a little more complicated. This is using the soft pastel assortment, and I used Versamark, and after I stamped my image with Versamark, I got some of the chalk powder, and I used a sponge dauber, and I just simply sponged the chalk powder directly onto the Versamark stamped image, and that's how I created that. Not really happy with that. I don't really think it's a really neat effect, and it was far too much work than I was willing to do. So I'm going to switch things up, and I was looking at this example here in the card, and I have my place marked. I also wanted to show how neat these new little tabs are. You can get these neat little tabs. If you contact me, I can send you some if you make an order. So here is the Garden Birdhouse set, and I basically used this example here to make this card. So that's kind of the sample I was trying to make. Now I want to make this card here, and this card is going to be on watercolor paper, and it's going to be a reverse emboss, and we're going to paint that, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. So what we're going to need to put that one together is you're going to need a piece of watercolor paper, and this should be 5 1/4 by 4 because it's going to sit on a piece of your base card here of 5 1/2 by 4 1/4, and I'm using Knight of Navy. I'm then going to grab my my Stamparatus, and I have a couple of plates that I've prepared here, because what I want to do with my Stamparatus is I want to use this to create my image. And as you can tell, that we're going to have, and I'm going to show you, this is what the image is going to look like. I'm going to have the 3 birdhouses, and I've already stamped it on just a piece of grid paper, but I'm going to set up one plate. It's going to have the 3 birdhouses, which are going to be stamped like that, and then the other plate is going to be my birds. I'm going to place my birds on top of my birdhouses and simply pick them up with my second plate. And this will make sure that I can stamp this image kind of one at a time, since there are a lot of pieces and parts. And then I will have to stamp the pole that the birdhouses are going to sit on. I'm going to stamp the pole individually, and then I'm going to put the grass and the flowers on the bottom individually. So you will need some Versamark, some white embossing powder, and then you're going to need a aqua painter and some colors, and I'm just going to use some of my ink colors that I have right here to color it. So let's go ahead and get started. It's not a difficult project, but it has some steps to it, and by using our Stamparatus, we're kind of simplifying it. So let's go ahead and do the first step, which is to take our Stamparatus, and here's our piece of watercolor paper that's 5 1/4 by 4. I'm going to set it right here. I'm going to lock it down with my magnets, and I'm going to go ahead and put the dust. Now, if you happen to hear some noises in the background, Rocky is asleep, but what I have right now is I have a little kitty that is having a lot of fun right now in my craft room, which is really my mother's artist studio. So now I'm going to ink this up with some Versamark. And I'm going to make sure that that inks nicely. And it did. I can see that it did. I'm just going to do it one more time. Okay. All right. Okay. So then I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to grab my birds, and I'm going to keep my little houses right there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink up my birds. And my birds are going to go right on top of my bird houses like that. And you can see there they are, right on top of the bird houses. Now I'm going to grab my paper. I'm going to put my Stamparatus aside with my plates right here. I'm going to grab in my little tray, and we're going to use my white powder. Okay, and there are our bird houses. I'm going to go ahead and emboss those right now with my heat gun. Okay, so now you can see that my birds have been embossed. Now I have to go and to grab my bird poles, which is right here. I'm going to grab my bird pole. I'm going to put my powder aside because I'm going to need it again. I'm going to grab one of my blocks, and I'm just going to put this on this block. Bring in my Versamark. I have a nice brush here, kind of brush some of the powder that's on my desk. And I'm going to go ahead and ink this up, and we're going to put the poles okay, so I got the poles right there. And then I'm going to grab some of these leaves here. And I'm going to do this between the poles. And I've got a skinny one here. Let me grab my skinny one. And I'm going to make sure that I kind of place this one right kind of between. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the powder to this. Okay, I think that I don't have any powder over here. Make sure I get that powder. Now, if I have little, just making sure that the powder is covered everywhere, and I do. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn on my heat gun, and I'm going to get this going. Okay, so you can kind of see that I have the I have this done, but I still have some kind of some open space. So let me put my powder back into my container right there. And I have on this stamp set we have, and I'm grabbing one of the little itty bitty. I have a little itty bitty blades of grass. So I'm going to grab that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in between where my flowers and my poles were to kind of add that grass that I want along the bottom. And then we're going to go ahead and add our powder here. And then we're going to apply the heat gun and melt that. Okay, so there it is. I have all the pieces embossed with white embossing powder on watercolor paper. My watercolor paper size is, let me just make sure I get clean all my dust out here. My watercolor paper size is 5 1/4 by 4 because it's going to go on the base card. I'm using white embossing powder, and I have all my little blocks where I've used the different little flowers over here. So now I am going to close this off, and I'm going to bring in a couple of my aqua painters. And I have several aqua painters here, and some of them have water in them and some of them don't. So if I don't have water, I have this itty bitty little water bottle that I use. But what I'm going to start out with, and we're gonna look at this example here, is we're going to start out with kind of a wash where I want to put blue around. Well, actually, I think I'm going to color the inside first. And I've got green, pink, and yellow, and then it has blue tops. And then I've got green on the bottom. So let's go over here, and let me grab a yellow. Okay, I've got a yellow. So this one here is going to be yellow. So I'm going to just go ahead, and I shouldn't have closed this because I'm going to squeeze my aqua painter, and I'm going to use this here, and let me bring this in so you can see how I'm going to paint it. But I'm just going to use my aqua painter here, and I'm just going to go ahead and wash that over my little birdhouse like that. Okay, just simply washing it over the little birdhouse. And making sure I've got. Now, you should always have, especially when you're working with watercolor, I always like to have a piece of paper towel, because if I have too much water at all, I can always just kind of blot that up. Okay, so that's the yellow. The next color that I'm going to need, oh, and my little birds are yellow. So let me go ahead and grab some color, and I'm going to color in my little birds here with the yellow. Right there. And just make sure I've got my little birds colored in. And there we go. And if I want to add darker, I can by simply just pulling in a little bit more pigment to my little birds. Okay, then I can blot them. Then my next color in the center is going to be, and I'm going to pick one of my new in colors. And this color is the polished pink. I don't even think I've used this yet. So I'm just going to press my pad, and I've just kind of cleaned my brush, and I'm going to use some of this wonderful pink right here in the middle. And that's going to go right along like this. And because this is reverse embossing, I just wash that across the whole image, and it's just going to fill in inside my watercolor paper. Okay? Because see that? Because I've got that wide embossing. And then I'm going to use some of the pink over here, because I've got some little flowers. And we're going to kind of go in here and add some pigment to our little flowers. And we don't have too many. And I'm just trying to see where the little flower parts are, so I can add some pigment in the middle. Okay, so there's some pigment there. Now I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to open up my Misty Moonlight. Of course, I'm just going to press this together, and there we go. And I'm going to do the roofs So the roofs are going to be in our misty moonlight, like this. And since this eave right here is kind of on the bottom, I'm going to darken this a little. I'm going to add more pigment right there. Okay. And then I'm going to I'm squeezing my Versamark so that I can go ahead and pick up some more pigment. I'm just going to spread it over here. I'll pick up some more pigment. I'm going to spread it over here. And I might pick some up and just kind of maybe darken one of the sides here. And just add a little bit of shadow, maybe by darkening one of the sides. I'm kind of adding a little bit more depth to my birdhouses. I'm going to close this off, and I'm going to bring in Mossy Meadow. And my Mossy Meadow is nice and juicy. I got lots of pigment here. I'm going to start out with by just kind of adding some of this down here. And again, you can put a paper towel beneath your paper here if you just kind of want to run some of that kind of off the bottom. You can do that. You can also go ahead and let that kind of blot off, and we can kind of add a little bit of that kind of going up the stalks of our flowers right here. And I'm kind of outlining my stalks and my flowers a little bit. So I can see the whole flower. And if I want to add a little bit more, depth to the bottom, see, I've got this as wet down here, so it's going to kind of bleed up a little bit, and that's a good thing because it kind of offers a little bit of grounding to my picture. And then I can always just blot and take some of that off. Now what I want to do is I have my birdhouse here that I'm going to paint. Now this is going to be the front of my birdhouse is going to be a very light wash that I'm going to do here, like this. And then I want to put a little bit more darker color along the side because, again, I want to kind of show that there's a little bit of depth. So I've just kind of added just a little bit more pigment there to the side of my birdhouse. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of wipe this, and then I'm going to just very lightly dry it with on the low, because I just want to make sure that all my colors have kind of locked into my paper. And then I'm going to turn this around like this, or rather I think I'm just going to pick another piece And I'm going to grab my my Misty Moonlight, and I'm going to make sure I have I'm adding lots of water to my Misty Moonlight tray right here, because what I want is I want to create a wash. And I'm going to kind of go around like this, because by kind of this circular motion up here is what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to kind of create kind of the look of clouds. Okay, by kind of going around. So the paper's wet, and I'm just kind of very gently abutting kind of where the white is. And I might take some pigment and kind of add it to my water, but I'm kind of using the circular motion. And it's okay to add a little bit of pigment here, and if you can kind of see how I'm just kind of adding it, because what I'm also trying to create maybe is a sense of maybe some clouds, see? And I'm just going to kind of let that sit like that a little bit. I don't want to get too prescriptive with it. Again, I put more water and add my little dish here. Okay. And just kind of work it. And this one can be very light, kind of where it meets the green. It can be very, very light. It doesn't have to be very, very dark at all. And I may want to add a little bit of darkness right along the side of your staff, for where your birdhouse sits up, like that. And what that's going to do, it's going to make your birdhouse sit out kind of a little bit. And I'm just adding a little bit of pigment, and I'm kind of following my line along one side of the birdhouse. Okay? Because that's kind of defining that side a little bit. And we're going to take it around the little bird as well, okay? And we're going to do the same over here with this one. I'm going to just kind of pull some of that pigment. I'm just going to kind of bring it around. I may go back and just kind of blend it a little like that. Okay, I may push in that darker color right along around my bird. And I may kind of see I'm kind of blending it so it doesn't look too obvious around my bird. But I do need that blue to go around it so that bird stands out. See, I could just kind of add a little bit more color, blending it around so that bird kind of stands out. And then we're going to make sure we have some color here on the bottom of our birdhouses right here. And just kind of trying to blend it in so I don't have too strong of a line. And what's nice when you're using a watercolor paper, a good watercolor paper, and this is Stampin' Up! Watercolor paper, what's nice is that you can work it like this with your water and with your brush, and that watercolor paper is going to stay very much intact. Okay, so this looks awfully light, so I'm going to go back, and I think what I want to do is, I really kind of like how it's looking, but I'm going to go back, and I think I'm going to take some more pigment, And I'm going to make one side of this stand out a little bit more right here. From the front of the birdhouse, because this is kind of the light side. Then I'm going to have kind of like, and I'm just kind of using some of the wash. Again, this is good watercolor paper. You're not in fear of since it's really good watercolor paper. It's going to absorb. It's going to work with you if you kind of work it over. Then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to grab some more pigment, and I'm going to add it right over here. Okay, and that way our this actually has some pigment right there. You can see that, and there we go. And I'm going to see. Inspect this a little closer and make sure that I have getting a little close here. What I'm trying to do is I just want to make sure that I've gotten, let me get this out. I just want to make sure I've gotten pigment around these flowers. Okay. There's not much of a little hole, but where there is one, I do want it to show up. And then I'm just going to kind of clean it off a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of more kind of blue right here along this stanchion. I'm kind of blending it in. Again, I was painting it upside down, so now that I'm kind of right side up, I'm just making sure that I kind of take care of the outline of my birdhouse. I want to make sure the outline of my birdhouse is kind of covered in this. Again, you can always just kind of work it in so that you can blend. And you can see kind of how I blended that in. All right, so there you go. That is how we created that scene. And we're simply going to, let me just kind of clean off my pen. I'm just going to put that over there. Now that I have that done, this is what it's going to look like on our card. Isn't that pretty? So we're going to put this on the card, and what I want to do is I'm going to use this punch because I want to make this a Father's Day card. So I'm using this called the Best Year stamp set right here. And let me go ahead and pull out Happy Father's Day. It's brand new. Here it is, Happy Father's Day. And I'm going to pull this off, and let me find my block. Put that right on the little block right there. I'm going to use, let me make sure this is straight. I'm going to use Night of Navy. And I'm going to, let me just make sure, yep. Okay, there it is. Now, I'm going to use this punch, and I want to use this end of the punch. So I'm going to turn it around, and let's see, if you put it in this way, it's going to give you that. So it's kind of in between, like right there. You see that, how I kind of push it in? Kind of, there we go. Kind of pushing it in carefully up into the point where I want to see. I'm kind of centering. See, there we go. So I've kind of centered it between the two curves. And there it is. And that is going to be on my card like that. Now this card has a piece of ribbon or something behind it. I'll tell you, the ribbon that I like for this is going to be a piece of this beautiful gingham right here. I'm going to put this, and let me grab my ribbon cutting scissors. I'm going to put that right there. And these are my ribbon cutting scissors. I have these scissors put aside. I have a special little ribbon on them because I don't want to cut paper with them in order to keep them with ribbon. And then I had over here, let me see if I can find it. Oh yes, I have some of this nice cord. And this is where I'm going to take this cord and I'm going to wrap it around this card several times like this. And then we're going to tie a knot, or I guess it's rather a bow. So I gotta make sure I have enough. Gotta make sure I have enough here. And sometimes for me to make sure I have enough is that I don't really cut it off the bolt, so to speak, until I have made my knot and my bow. Okay. And then I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut that. Okay, so there is my bow. And then I'm going to put my piece of ribbon. It's going to go, so I'm going to put this like right above my flowers, right? I'm going to put that right above my flowers like that. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of my snail, and I'm going to just grab my ribbon. I'm going to run this along my snail using my nice adhesive mat. And I want this to go right there. Let me make sure I have that centered. Okay, so I have that right there. And then I'm going to put Happy Father's Day kind of right. You know what? I'm going to have to trim this. So you know how I'm going to trim it? I'm going to grab my mini trimmer here. And I'm going to put this mini trimmer, I'm going to put my Father's Day right like that. I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to trim this. You know, and look at that. That worked out pretty good. Worked out pretty good. Not perfect, but hey. And then I can put this right there, and then that can kind of show, and kind of see how I'm going to show some of that like that. And the perfect dots for this are our mini glue dots. One of the problems I'm having with these doggone mini glue dots is they just come apart in my package like crazy. So I have to be very careful, and I don't know if it's just I've had them, they last so long. A package, when you buy it, can last you a while. So maybe when I'm the way I'm storing them, because I kind of have them in this bag, maybe I keep shoving them in there, and I'm loosening up the little backing, and that's why they're kind of sticking on me. So that might be something. I hope that's not happening to you, but I might have to think about how I'm going to store my mini dimensionals. All right, so there's my Happy Father's Day. And I want that to sit right there. And then I'm going to make sure that my bow is going to go right there. And I'm going to adhere, make sure that bow sticks. I'm just going to grab, see, I just put a little bit of stickum there so that that bow sticks. And if I need to cut this a little bit more, I will, because that's basically the front of the card. And then I'm going to use my wonderful tear tape, because I know once I use tear tape, I can go ahead and hold down my string over here, and it's not going to go anywhere. And I have the added security that this tear tape is not going anywhere. This thing is going to stay wherever you put it. I just need to, before I bump into something with this, I just want to clean that stamp. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and let me just use my other tool, my marvelous little special tool here, and I'm just going to pick these up. I hope you leave me a message and say hi. It's been a while. I've moved to New Mexico. I am enjoying the beautiful desert high country. Here it is hot, but in the evenings it gets down to 52 degrees. So it's that wonderful high country weather. I'm in my mother's house, so I'm doing a lot of things to kind of help get the house back into working order, taking care of some things for her. So it's, just the stuff that we do as daughters, right? We do as family, as our moms, as our parents begin to age. There's things that we can do to kind of make a difference. So that's why I've moved back to New Mexico from Florida, so that I can be home to help make a difference as my mom continues to age, and also to support my sister, who's been taking on a big burden. Oops. Let's see. Just want to make sure I get that straight there. It's been a while since I've done Love Live, and I'm just so excited. I hope you guys say hi. Hi, hello. And, we're on the other side of COVID. I hope everything went well. And, blessings to you and your family. So there we go. Gosh, so excited. Here is the stamp set that we use, the garden birdhouses. And let's compare how this card looks to what's in the catalog. And I think we did a pretty good job. I think we did a really good job. But there is some techniques and all the steps that you need to recreate that, because I really thought that was a pretty card. And I happen to have an uncle who likes to garden. He likes birdhouses. So this is going to him for Father's Day. So there you go, Cat Chancellor. Don't forget me, Stamp Art Connections, stampartconnection.com. Please like and share, and blessings to you, and I hopefully will be back soon. So happy stamping.